You know what we'll go ahead and do while we're, because we're still waiting for Ruth and Deb Arca, but we'll go ahead with our opening. So Kim, you have our opening. You want to start us, hon?
Sure. Paige found the opening for us, for me, because she's my favorite child right now. And I asked you, and it's very short in honor of Tima being here. This is a little poem. I wanted to say a little ditty by Jack and Diane. This is a short poem by Farid al-Din Atar, a Sufi mystic poet. Let love lead your soul. Make it a place of refuge, like a monastic cave, a retreat for the deepest core of your being. Let love lead your soul. That's my opening.
Very nice opening.
Thank you. Thank you.
Amen.
Yeah. All right. So I already said how the evening's going to be. So go ahead, Fatima, and just take it away.
All right, I will. Do we have everyone too?
No,
They're not all here, but hopefully they'll be slipping in.
Is Sam coming, Eileen?
I don't think he'll be joining us.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you.
What's your puppy's name?
Oh, this is Coco.
Coco.
Coco. Coco wants to bite something.
I have a pen in my hand, and now I have my hand in my hand.
Yes. Very nice to spend the evening with you guys. I've heard a lot about you through both Sue as well as, hey, little Brad, Sue as well as Kim and Brad. And so it's really an honor to join your Treehouse group. I know how special it is. So thank you very much for allowing me to come spend, an hour, 45 minutes with you guys. So I'll give you guys a brief intro. I know that some of you may have watched a couple of the podcasts that I participated with my pal Brad. I am obviously a Black woman in America. That is how Brad has affectionately called me on the podcast, and I really enjoy that intro, only because I think that as I grow in this space of doing more public speaking and more community outreach, I think that I'm really starting to get a hang and get comfortable with speaking about things from my perspective. I mentioned to Brad the last podcast we got together on a couple of weeks ago. I talked a lot about me and my perspectives coming from my experiences and not coming from a scholarly perspective. And so when we talk today, that is the perspective that I'll be coming from as well. I have a few questions for you guys, and I hope that you guys have a few questions for me. I am a mom. I have two boys, 15 and 10. My husband is a mechanical engineer. By trade, I am a communications professional. Most of my career has been around advertising, marketing, and all of the systems that go into play with that, thinking about technology. The last 5 years of my life have been really focused on technology and the client experience around technology specifically. So currently I hold a role at a software organization that's 100% remote. And my focus is workforce management with a concentration on the client experience. So I'm a VP of client experience for a technology firm, and I know nothing about technology. The only reason why I knew Eileen about the Zoom is because we use Zoom at work, but otherwise I would have been like peppering you with questions on how to even start this Zoom thing. So not technology driven at all. So one of the things that I wanted to jump right into and along with my intro, and then I actually am going to turn it over to you guys for a little bit of a dialogue. I wanted to talk about an organization that I started in March. I started an organization called 360 Degree Talk. And this organization is going to be dedicated to conversation coaching about things that make us super uncomfortable. Discrimination, bias, unconscious bias, racism, things of that nature. What I've learned about myself over the last 41 years is that I love to have challenging and uncomfortable conversations. And it's not because I enjoy being the center of attention, because my mom would absolutely say that. But I feel like I can pull things out of people. I feel like I'm a good listener, and I feel like I have a lot to say. So I want to make people, whoever comes my way virtually, face-to-face, phone calls, conference calls, I want to be able to elevate conversations so that can be more meaningful. And so my organization will be dedicated to having conversations like this, but also creating a documentation so that the community can learn how to have the conversations on their own. And that's really important. When Brad asked me on the first podcast toward the end, why did I say yes? And if you saw the podcast, you saw an ugly cry. And I said yes, because I think more of these conversations need to be had across people that would normally not have these conversations, people that may be a little bit nervous about having uncomfortable conversations around inclusivity and diversity and race and all that stuff. So I am not coming to you like a scholar. I told you that I know a little bit about technology and a lot about my own experiences. So our time today will be only from my perspective, and giving you thoughts, and not thoughts, but giving you things to think about as you continue on your journey and continue on your individual conversations that you guys have in the Treehouse. Any questions about that before we jump in?
Nope.
That's good.
Does your new organization have a website, and can we go look at it?
Yes, and yes. So I'm actually looking up at my unpublished website. I hope that before the end of the month, it will be published. I keep iterating on it because it's my baby and I want it to be perfect. I know there's no such thing as being perfect, but I am about 50% there. So as soon as that link is ready, I'll be happy to share it with Kim or Sue or Brad, and then they can share it with you guys if that's okay. So give me a couple more weeks to get it just right for you.
Cool.
Great.
Thank you, Amy. I appreciate that. Appreciate the support.
Go for it.
All right. Okay. So before I get started, and I have some cue cards here for myself that I prepared, a little bit of an activity later on in our talk. But who wants to jump in and give me one of the topics that you guys have spoken about over the last 18 months or so in your Treehouse group?
Oh, I can if you want. What was that name of the book that we was called? I can't.
Chaos,
Holy chaos.
holy chaos.
The one before that one.
It was
Oh,
called
Very
sorry.
first book we did.
Anxious to Talk About It.
Yeah, the first thing we did was a book called Anxious to Talk About It. It was written by a white woman, a white church
Mm-hmm.
person,
Excellent.
about how to talk to other white people about race without having huge, disagreements, and just maybe how to think about race in different ways that we had done. I don't know if we all loved that book or not. We all seemed
No.
to
No.
kind of
Roger?
eh.
Roger didn't like it?
Well, it wasn't. Comparing it with Holy Chaos, it wasn't very good.
The second book we read was called Holy Chaos by a local.
One of the things too that we do when we say we would talk about a book, we're talking about doing a chapter each week. So for a long time, it was just, we anxious to talk about it, and then we did Holy Chaos. So that took weeks and weeks of doing that, and then different things would come up within those discussions too on a chapter. Like one time I remember we talked I don't have the specifics on it, but the pyramid of hate and how that gets perpetuated.
Mhm.
And then the other thing that we've done is we kind of talked about what movies might we watch.
Mhm.
And I should send you that list because we came up with it's quite a list. This is the list of the movies.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's quite a list. And we did I Am Not Your Negro, The Hate You Give, and One Night in Miami. And then we watched a movie, then had a discussion. So and we've talked a lot about things when we've our own experiences growing up.
And so I'm going to call on Ruth Neal. What would you like? Hi, Ruth. What would
there.
you like to walk away from in our conversation today?
I guess that I get the idea that we will be focusing mostly toward one-on-one conversation. I guess I have a deeper question, and that is that the only way to get to, for instance, a group of people being able to interact with another group of people who are different from them? For instance, our racial equity team has recently been discussing possible ways that members of our church, as a larger group of people, could form a relationship with maybe another church group, but maybe an African American church. Can that be done on that level, or is it always one-on-one?
Yeah, so I'll answer that real quick, and I'm glad that you asked that, and I'm hopeful that others will join in with questions as well. I think yes, and I think that it's all about Ms. Neal. I think it's all about trust. I think it's all about making sure that you're transparent and that you're open to the question you're going to get of why. What is your purpose? Why do you want to do this? What do you hope to get from it? What is your ask? I think that when you are organization to organization, I think it's a little bit easier to form those conversations because it's almost like business to business, church to church. I think it becomes more anxiety driven if you just randomly call an organization and you're an individual person and say, hi, I'm Ruth Neal, and I want to bring us closer together. Please let's meet at 6 o'clock, such and such time, such and such place. That probably would be a little bit more harder. But I think having the outreach, just like how you outreach to welcome members, people that are not members of your church to become members of your church, I think going about it that same way, I think that it's totally fine. And I would think that a lot of Black churches would open their arms to that. And I think that is a really awesome idea and awesome way to start having those conversations on a deeper level. Anyone else? Hi, Kim.
I never have asked you what your church background is. I don't even know if you are churched or if you.
Yeah. I grew up in the church, Baptist, and probably around 2017, 2018, I had a not so good experience at my church, and I have not returned. We do practice here. We do read here. We do study here. But as far as me physically going into a building, I have not. I'm sporadically, but not consistently since probably 2008.
2008.
Yes,
Berkeley.
long time ago.
Said you had a bad experience.
Yes.
I am involved heavily with the Black community. I have 3 close friends that I dearly love, and it's returned. And they have never ever said to me, oh man, I wish you wouldn't say that. That's racist. But I would like to hear what bad experiences you have had that were not intended to be bad for you, but that you realized were clearly racist. What sort of things have been said to you that you really wish hadn't been said, or that we really ought to be aware of not to say?
Sure,
You understand what
sure.
I'm saying?
Yes, I've prepared a list for you. Um,
Good.
Going back to the church, my church experience, what didn't have to do with race, it had everything to do with politics. The church that I was going to was really, really affiliated with local government, and at the, I guess at the different levels of government in the state of Virginia, and he would come and bring those people on stage and promote them to the congregation. And I did not like that. And that was a really tough experience for me. And I didn't want to be influenced by, through fellowship and through studying the word, I did not want to be influenced that way and talk about an upcoming election. That's not something I was interested in. So that I just wanted to make sure that you guys understood that was separate. So one of the things that I constantly hear over and over, to answer your question, Rich, is I don't see color. And I 100% disagree with any statement like that, because we identify with what we know, and we look at people and we describe them. That is a white woman with a red blazer on. That is how we describe, that's how we identify each other. And so I get really uncomfortable when white America says, I don't see color. And so that's like at the top of my list. Close second is when people say that I'm not a racist, I have Black friends. Just because you have Black friends doesn't mean that you're not a racist. Everyone has a bias. It's built in based on what we see, based on the media, based on how we live our lives, based on our experiences. So I think that people tell fib a little bit when they say, I am not racist, I have Black friends. I will tell you that I'm a little biased to certain aspects of the world, and I still have friends that I might be biased against their culture, and you just can't, it is not suggested, and doesn't feel good to the opposite party when you hear something like that. My opinion.
As I remember in that movie, The Hate You Give,
Mm-hmm.
the main character's white boyfriend. See, I don't see you as Black. And she said, but I am Black.
That's right.
And you're denying my identity.
That's right.
If you see me as Black.
That's right.
And so I just told you I have Black friends, and none of them have ever told me, oh, I wish I hadn't said that. But I know it happens. So I'd like to hear more of that list.
Okay.
Where I need to avoid going.
Right.
We just want to study up so we can not do it.
I will tell you that your friends love you. If they are your friend and you've had great relationships with them across many years, they love you, and they don't want to put you in a situation where you feel sorrowful, you feel embarrassed, or you feel like you've hurt them. So I don't know your friends, but I can sure give a good guess that they probably won't tell you something like that because they don't want to hurt your feelings. They don't want to be in an uncomfortable situation, right? And that's the best type of friend to have, right? That's the best type of friend to have. So the third thing that's top of my list is the assumption that white people being poor equals a Black person experiencing being Black. And thank you for that, whoever put that message in there. That is not the same. Some of the experiences when you grow up poor could be very similar. Government assistance, poor school systems, your living environment. But there is something very, very different about being a Black person in America that is very different than being a white person in America. And so I hear oftentimes, when we talk about race and inequality, especially on the wealth side, we have conversations about equity and access. And a lot of the conversations will turn into, I'm a white person, I didn't have equity, I didn't have access, I had to pull myself up the same way someone else has to pull themselves up. And it's to me, in my experience, it's very, very different. Very different.
Is it?
So how, oh,
Well, one last question, then I'll shut
Yes,
up.
sir.
Is it correct? There we go. Is it correct to say that every Black person in America living in this society has unquestionably experienced a statement, an episode, something that diminished them because of the color of their skin?
Yes. I can't speak for all Black America. My feeling is that if you polled every Black American living in this society, whether it even goes beyond generations, millennials have a different perspective on racism than baby boomers or Generation X. But every single generation can absolutely give you examples of how they felt discriminated against, how they felt oppressed, or some icky feeling that they just couldn't quantify, they couldn't associate with a certain level of disrespect. So yes, 100%. Yes, that's how I feel.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for the questions. Kim, you were going to say something?
Oh, I was just recalling that when you spoke with Terry, he kind of used that argument about, I grew up poor, I grew up in a bad family situation, in a bad, had a bad childhood. And I pulled myself up. So, snap out of it, basically, you would say. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that there are some really positive things, and this is going to sound absolutely crazy. There are some real positive things about adversity. If you can figure out how to pull yourself up, if you can figure out how to use oppression, use diversity, use the biases that are out there, if you can figure out how to hone those and make them your muse and push yourself through there, that is the best motivation you can have. And what I get discouraged about as a Black woman in America is that I get concerned that we as a Black nation rely on that motivation too much. I think that there's other things that Black people have been able to achieve that's outside of race identification. And I get sad thinking about where we're going to be 50 years from now when things are, I'm not saying things are perfect and everything is equal and all of that. I'm not going to tell you guys that because that's not how I feel. But we've come a long way in the last 50 years. What I get concerned about is my grandchildren's children. What are they going to use to motivate them? Because I know that I have had to work twice as hard. I was born in the 80s. I grew up in the 90s, right before the tech boom. And I had to hustle a little bit harder than I think that I would have if my skin was different. But if my granddaughter or my great granddaughter doesn't have that drive and she doesn't know where to pull that energy from to grow, to drive, to push through, then what? And that makes me concerned. I will tell you one other thing that really frightened me one day. I was talking to my son, he's 15, he's going to be 16 in July. All of you guys are probably have kids and grandkids, and so you know this is a very delicate age. And he mentioned to me that sometimes he wished that he didn't have a 2-parent household. He wished that his mom was a single mom. And I'm like, what the heck are you talking about, kid? Like, what are you getting this from? And he said, look at all the successful Black men in America. They all didn't know their dad. And so they use that motivation. And I'm like, hey, kid, you better find some other motivation because your daddy is not going anywhere. But in his mind, that's what he thought, because he has not grasped the fact that mom is driven off of mom's own energy. I find things to worry about. I find things to conquer. I find things to get myself into at 9:31 Eastern Standard Time on a Sunday before a work week, right? Like I find these things because of what drives me, and he'll get it. It'll click for him one day. Well, he'll figure out what drives him. But I told him, you surviving is not your driver. We live very nice, son. Don't take that to the side. You need to figure out what your muse is. And so that was a tough conversation to have, because he thought that he was at a disadvantage being from a 2-parent household, 2 incomes, and he has a car to drive before he turns 16 years old. But it's all about perspective. And so going back to Terry's comment that, you know, being poor is kind of equal and all of that, I don't agree with that. But I also think that we as a Black nation, I think that racism and oppression is going to be there. People are going to be racist and oppressed for years to come. This is not going to go anywhere. However, I get nervous, again, going back to my son's example of what are we holding on to? What are we holding on to inside to push us and to motivate us? And it can't always be because I'm a Black woman in America. That's not good enough. So that's that one point. I just wanted to raise that point. I'm glad it came up earlier in our dialogue because I actually wrote it down to talk to you guys about.
Didn't your son say
Roger
that?
had something.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Roger.
Yeah, I was going to say, I somehow, when Sue introduced our topic, I forget what you called our group, but it sort of stuck in my craw. I wasn't sure what you called it. And I thought, surely that should be racial equality. But then I thought, as you're talking, shouldn't it be human equality? That's the only thing we have in common. We're not racial, you know. It's not a race. It's a human equality we want. And do you agree? Good.
I do.
I wonder
I do
what
agree.
your reaction would be to that.
Yeah,
Good.
no, I
From now on, Sue, we're human equality, please.
I think that human
That's
equality
Roger.
is the header, and you have many, many subtopics.
Sure.
Racial equality, women equality, disability, all religion, like it can go on and on. So I think we're all saying the same thing. And I think that you just brought something else up. And I'm so glad that you guys are so engaged, because some of this stuff I wrote down and I don't even have to like bring the topic up. It's awesome. You guys are just doing it for me. Roger, when you said about human equality, I think that that is so important to understand in this day and age. What technology has done for this country is unimaginable. You think about the fact that I get to meet with your church group through a Zoom session. You think about Facebook. You think about all of the ways that we're connected across the country, across the world. And it's really, and it shouldn't be about race relations. It should be about human relations. And if we can focus on making sure that everybody has equity, everybody is given fairness across the board, then the thought of race it becomes a non-issue in my mind. Because I don't want special treatment.
No.
I don't want reparations. I don't want to be a diversity hire. I want you to choose me because I'm the best me, not because of the color of my skin. Because
Good.
what if the work that I do for you is not good work? Do you want to keep me on? Do I want to go through the rest of my career questioning if Roger made the decision because I was a diversity hire, and maybe he's questioning my reports because I'm not as sharp as he thought I was, but he kind of knew I wasn't that sharp because he just hired me for the diversity hire. Like all that psychoanalytics that goes on in the workplace, and thinking about yourself and things that you can give to your employer, and self-esteem and fulfillment and all of that. No one wants to second guess that. I don't want any handouts. And I can't speak for all of Black America, but everyone has pride in what they do. Even the guy that is sweeping the floor at the elementary school, who's cleaning off the cafeteria tables, that person, and we learned about this past year, that person was an essential worker because of what he did every day that made him proud, right? It doesn't matter the color of your skin. You are going to be fulfilled in anything that you do if you really care about it. It doesn't matter what the role is what I'm saying. So I think that that is an important distinction to differentiate, that it's not, I don't want to defund the police because of what's going on across America with Black and brown kids being shot. I want them to do better, but I don't want them to do better for me. I want them to do better for everyone. I'll tell you this little anecdote, and we can go into the next topic. One of my good friends was really upset about the legislation that just passed about the Asian protection safety. I don't even know the actual legislation. And she was really upset. And she texted me and she said, we have to march, we have to scream, we have to cry. And Asians just get what they get, right? Just off of the incidents that have happened and since COVID and all of that. And I understood what she said. And I said, Brittany, I get what you're saying and I agree with you. However, progress is progress. I'll take it because I don't want Asians dying in the street either. I don't want anyone dying in the street for some nonsense. This is not okay. We should not adhere to that in our humanity. Like that doesn't even make sense. I can't even make it make sense. So yes, it's discouraging when we see, as Black people, we see other cultures being treated fairly, and it's always a "what about us" reaction. And she disagrees with me, but I had to tell her that we need to be happy that that is happening because it's not about race, it's about us all. It's about humanity.
I just want to follow up on your comment about the janitor being a essential worker. I remember years ago, I heard a sermon and the minister said, if the trash collectors went on strike and the doctors went on strike, who would you miss first?
I'm definitely going to miss the sanitation workers. I'm not going to miss my doctor.
Yeah.
But Fatima?
Yes.
I'm 7. Oh, by the way, Susie and I lived in Northern Virginia 35 years. And
oh, wow.
Traveled the whole state during the 4 years she was chair of the statewide Democratic Party. So we know racism in Virginia. I'm 78 years old. And the day I was born, as a cute little white baby, I began my life of white privilege. And I understand that. I've had to work to understand that because everything seemed natural. It was easy for me. The color of my skin has never been a disadvantage in anything I tried to do. I heard you say to Terry, I think this is close to what you said, I'd just like for one day not to be Black. And he challenged your response because by that time you had won a fair amount of admiration from him. He was struggling in the conversation, but you had won some admiration from him. And he said, you don't mean that. And you said, just for a day, I would like for the color of my skin not to be the first thing that people see and shapes their view of who I am. we're in a new state of denial recently after the president spoke to both houses of Congress and Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina responded and declared that we are not a racist nation.
That's wrong.
And the next day, Biden pressed to respond, gave a politically correct, by the way, I'm a lifetime Yellow Dog Democrat, I love Biden, but he gave a politically correct answer. He could not categorically say, yes, we are, or no, we're not. He said, I don't think we're a racist nation, but the vestiges of slavery and the disadvantage of the black people are still with us. What really surprised me was then James Clyburn stated that America is not a racist nation. I have a lot of respect for Jim Clyburn, but I have a hard time accepting that conclusion. There are so many vestiges. It is so embodied in every aspect of the structure of our society. White privilege exists, and you have to work harder to get where you are today than my white sister would have had to work to get to the same place you are. I don't have a white sister, by the way, but
yeah, no, I get it. I get it. Yeah, no, I get it. Yes, I did say that to Terry, and I do, I would love to have a social experiment where I can see what happens with that. Mostly because deep down, I really want to be proven wrong. I won't be, but I really want to try. Like, what happens when I go and I had to drop off my vehicle today to get some work done in the morning. And I wonder if I came in to pick up my car from the dealership tomorrow, what type of service would I get if I was not a Black woman? I'll never know, but it's a neat idea. It's a neat social experiment. I want to see if I'm proven wrong. I don't think that I will be. Going back to Clymer and going back to the thoughts that Kamala as well as Biden said in the last couple of weeks about our country. The reality is this: we cannot continue damning the country. We cannot continue to say that all white people are racist, because if we do that, then you close the conversation. And so the work that I want to do now and in the future is to open up the dialogue to have a 360-degree conversation about, what do you feel like being a white person in America? What I feel like being a Black woman in America, and so forth and so on. I do believe that we were founded on racist principles. Some of our laws are still kind of racist. And so it's hard until those laws are amended. It's really hard to really say that we aren't a racist society and that we aren't built on race. I think there's a lot of goodness out there where people are trying to overcome this group alone is a really good example. But we also have to be very, very careful. We're at a very pivotal point in race relations since the last 18 months of very uniqueness, that we don't want to tip our hat and push our allies away, because I can't make a difference like Roger can make a difference. I can't make a difference like Brad can make a difference. It means a whole heck of a lot coming from you guys, and it comes from me. They expect it to come from me, but coming from someone who has the influence, someone that has the power, someone that has the relatability, you can absolutely help make that change stick. Roger.
Fatima, I was just going to say, this may not be a racist nation, but our school system is definitely racist. So I'll start there.
Yes, I believe that you're absolutely correct. I believe that our school system, our housing market. I can go on and on and on until I complete the puzzle of what I believe that our society is very racist. And it's not, the thing is, like, you know, race is like a 4-letter curse word. And I get the sensitivity around it and the importance of it. But it really has to do with bias. It really has to do with and here's the activity to bring the point home. So if you all in your baby boomer age, right? We don't have to go around the room and ask everyone how old they are, but you guys are experienced, you guys are wise. With wisdom comes gray hair, or sometimes no hair. Love you, Brad. And so if you all lived in a society where everyone, they were all young, vibrant, their hair was shiny blonde or jet black or whatever their natural hair color was when they, you know, as a young person, and you all have matured, so you look mature. If every single day on the media, you guys were, it was discussed like, oh, another gray-haired woman started a 15-car collision on I-95 because she can't drive because she's old. And if you are that older person, and you tried to go get a job and you looked on the World Wide Web and you saw everybody on the board and every executive looked really young and vibrant, they all look like they're in their 20s, living the time of their lives, no achy joints, no arthritis, no health conditions at all, you would be terrified to work in an organization like that. People will look at you very uniquely when you walk into an organization where everybody is looking like they're 25 and I'm 50, 65, 75, 85. So I'm being discriminated because of my experiences, because my hair is gray, because I may have some baldness going on. Love you, Brad. But you know what you can bring to the table. Yeah, I'm picking on you, Brad. You know what you can bring to the table. Sue knows what she can bring to the table. Roger knows what he can bring to the table. But if the media, everything you're seeing, you're getting stopped by police nonstop because you look like you shouldn't be out past 9 because you're older and wiser. If you try to get a job and everybody, your colleagues, executives, everybody looks like they're 25, and you get that job, Sue, and you walk into the building with your box and all your decorative things for your cube, and you have one person that you walk into and they look a little bit like you. You're going to cling to that person. You're going to be like, that's my best friend. Oh my God, I don't know you, but I'm identifying with you. Oh my goodness. And why don't anyone have gray hair around here? Are all the older people.
Yeah.
What I just described to you is being a minority, walking into a business, and because of people's experiences with what they see on TV, what they read on books, what they watch on TV, the videos, the cinematized, all of that. I'm walking into an organization where may not be anyone that I can identify with. I'm looking up at that, at the wall, at all of those plaques and all of those pictures of all of these people that have done so many great things at this corporation, and none of them look like me. I guess this is the lowest totem pole. This is what I'm just going to be an individual contributor. Why even try? No one has gray hair. They're all 25, and here I am 40, dye my hair every month to cover up my gray because I'm scared and nervous that I won't be accepted because everybody looks like someone else.
You could change that to blue eyes or brown eyes or anything else. Right.
Change it to whatever you want to change it to.
Right. Yeah.
But it's if you don't have that internal rev and that drive, and you don't have that, if you have low self-esteem, if people around you in your family didn't go to college,
Right.
first generation college student, if you don't have that representation close by, someone you can reach out to, you really do get lost. And you don't know how to maneuver. You don't know who you can trust. It's almost like back in the day when America, first was developed 1800s or what have you. And you had all these different tribes all over the Midwest, right?
Right.
And I don't speak your language. I feel like I need to protect myself. I need to like have my, they didn't have guns back then, but have my sword or knife or whatever, because I'm scared, because it's a language barrier. That's if I can leave you with anything, and I know we still have a few minutes left, but if I can leave you with anything, it is about, that's how Black America feels from my perspective, is you have all of these assumptions of me because of what your experiences have been, because of where you live, because of what you see on TV. And so it's not the racism that's causing you to clutch your purse in an elevator. That's not the racism, it's the fear. It's the lack of knowledge, it's the lack of experience. And so that to me is how we break that down. Sure, it'd be great if we can break it down at the legislative level and we can have policies rewritten and laws amended, but really that is hard, and that is a far stretch. What the common American can do is just understand each other's perspectives. And I also challenge the Black people in my circle to understand the white perspective. Just understand where they may be coming from. Do you think that they want people who aren't racist or aren't discriminatory, at least consciously, do you think they want to continue to hear that they're racist? No. Do you think that you want to continue to be blamed and feel sorrowful? The last thing you want anyone to do is feel sorry for you. And so it is super important for me, as I enter this new phase of my life, that I have to understand from everybody's viewpoint, because if I don't, I'm just going to be talking at the situation and not really listening and learning. And that is what I think we are failed to do, is truly learn and be educated across the color lines.
Berkeley, did you want to say something? You had your hand up earlier.
Well,
Sorry, Berkeley.
oh, no. I don't
Okay.
think this makes any sense, but you use the word equal and equality. And Ruth and I were co-chairs of this committee, and we were looking for a name. And it started out as the Anti-Racist Committee.
Mm-hmm.
And the church says, find something you're for, not something you're against. And so we thought of equality, and we thought that's a step too far. So we chose the name, the Racial Equity Team. Equity means giving what the other person needs, not the same, but what that person needs, and recognizing that.
Yes.
And yet I find myself wondering if that's almost a little racist in itself.
I don't know. Let's talk about that. So in the business world, there's a cliche that says, I want to meet you where you are, right? And so let's talk about this from a business perspective. If I have a client that has never tested their solution before, they don't know what testing means, they don't have any concept of what that means, and I say, go test so that you can figure out how to work your system, they're never going to test. If I say, let me guide you, teach you how to test so that you can forever learn, forever and ever, guess what I just did? On that particular project, in that particular experience, I taught that client how to do something that they're going to be able, through muscle memory, notes, video, whatever tools, they're going to continue to be able to do that. So if they get something else in their lives at work or wherever else, they'll have that notion of, oh, I need to test this to make sure that this meets my requirements. I met that client where they were. That does not mean that I oppressed them. That does not mean that I took something away from them. I met them where their needs were. That is so vital. I'm so excited I can't even get it out. It's so vital in today's society. We are getting too caught up in names of things, terms. What we really need to do is educate each other. And if you want to start a group in church that is about equality or whatever it is, the outcome is what we should be focused on. Meeting people where they are is super important. If you have someone said something about, I think it was Roger said something about education and disparities in education. So what do we need to do? We need to meet that scenario where it is. Pick one thing. Oh, it's textbooks for blah, blah, blah school in Denver. Okay, great. So now we're going to raise money for textbooks for these students. That's meeting them where they are. Unfortunately, I wish to God that wasn't the example. It really, even saying it out loud, just bothers me a little bit, guys, because we're talking about educating America's youth. Why would we not want to throw everything that we can at that situation? That's a whole nother hour treehouse conversation.
Yeah.
But do you see what my point is there about?
Well, you're answering my question. You're dealing with equity.
Yes. And it can't be. So we had a conversation, Sue and I had a conversation when I was in Denver a month ago at her kitchen table, and we were talking about reparations. And so I said, okay, let's play this use case out. So we go ahead and we decide, similar to the stimulus checks, we're just going to have a budget, have a number, and we're going to write checks to Black America, and they're going to be substantial checks to try to get them at the same start line as someone that doesn't look like them. The reality is, are you going to teach them about finances? You're going to teach them about credit scores. You're going to teach them about investments. Are you going to there's so many things. There's so many things that goes along with that, right? I know how to manage my money because I was taught to manage my money at a young age. I still made some mistakes in my 20s, but overall I've done okay. However, if you have been living off of government assistance your entire life, you don't understand anything about a budget, your lights are never going to get turned off, right? Your water is always going to be running because you live in a subsidized housing. And if you give someone $4,000 a month, can you imagine what that's going to do to society? Just in the drugs alone, and I'm not saying that everybody in subsidized housing is a drug user, but you give people who don't know how to manage their money and all hell could break loose. You have to be very careful about that. But if you meet them where they are, subsidized tuition,
right,
childcare, you do those things to allow them to figure it out for themselves. You give them the template, you give them some life skills, you pop up some nonprofits around these areas where these reparations are being given, and you teach people life skills, teach them how to be successful, teach them all of that, all of those things that at dinner time your families talk to you guys about. That is the step in the right direction. Giving somebody a blank check is not the step, from my perspective, it's not the step in the right direction.
I vote we do that.
Yeah, great. Let's get it done. You want me to write up the legislation? You want me to?
I'm in.
Go for it.
Eileen had something to say.
Eileen, did you have a comment?
Well, I actually have so many questions and clearly we're out of time. So I just, just as we talked about education just as ever so slightly, but just as a mom of school age kids, and there's so much talk about the 1619 project and about all the legislation in Idaho to limit. There's just so much around the curriculum. But what I realize is when you have Black History Month, when you feel the need to focus on it, it means you're not teaching it every day. It means it's not part of the textbook. And I'll be honest, I'm a decade older than you, Fatima. And so, I grew up not thinking about any of it. And honestly, I'm like, oh, that's Black history. That's not, it's a different thing, and it's not a different thing. So I'm just wondering, as a mom of school age kids, how would you like to see the curriculum change? I know we don't have a ton of time, so.
No, if you guys can stay on for about 10 extra minutes, I can give 10 extra minutes.
Goody.
And I can always come back too whenever you guys want me to. So if you guys want me to. So I think that anytime you have to pull something out to focus on, then you're not doing the justice, right? I don't want to have a Black History Month. I want to celebrate history 365, right? I don't want to focus on weight loss after the holiday. I should be focused on weight loss all year round, right? And so when you separate anything out, take any example, you make it the hyper focus, that means you lose the focus because you are sprinting towards a scenario, towards a solve, towards education, when really it should be a practice that you have all the time.
Yep.
And so to answer your question, Eileen, I disagree with Black History Month. I disagree with anything that is focused for that particular month, that particular day, all of that. Like what you're saying to my child is that we only need to focus on you for 28 days out the year, and none of that other stuff really matters, just in February. And that's not true. And so that's hard. The other thing, Eileen, that I'll say, and I'm going to stop talking after I say this because I want you guys to ask questions. I think Eileen had another one. But Eileen, you mentioned about the education piece. And I don't just want my kids to learn about Martin Luther King, Sojourner Truth, Nat Turner. I want to go back. Can we go back before civil rights? Can we go back even before slavery? Like, what were the West Africans, if think about the West African slave trade, what was happening before the West African slave trade? I want them to know about that too. All of Black history isn't about the suffrage and the pain and the survival. Like, it makes you feel super dark and not like you don't have a culture. Like, that's hard to deal with. So if I challenge the education system, I challenge to open it up and have real history that is inclusive of all the things, not just about the great Black people in the 1950s. Eileen, you had another question.
You know what, we're way over. There's just too much to talk about. I so appreciate your being here.
We're all enjoying this.
Yeah, we love it. But it's late your time. I don't want to keep you.
Where are you, Fatima?
I am in Richmond, Virginia, smack dab
I'm in
the middle.
Arlington, Virginia.
What?
Howdy, neighbor.
Howdy, neighbor. I will be in Arlington on Tuesday for work.
Oh, really? Good.
Yes.
I'll still
and then
be
I'll
here.
Be back in Denver in 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah. Good.
Yes.
Next time we meet, we should do it at 6, or try to bump it a little earlier for you.
Yeah, it's past my bedtime.
When you come in June, how long are you going to be here?
If my family will allow, I would love to be there for 4 or 5 days. There's a lot of stuff I want to get done for work and then my side work too. So I want to spend some time with you, Sue, and I want to talk to Brad and Kim. And so I'm trying to stretch it out as long as I can.
Okay.
Bring the whole family. Come on, just come on.
Yeah, there you go. Bring the whole family. Like a vacation.
I need a break.
Fatima, you've given us such food for thought.
Good, I'm glad. Let me go through my list real quick to make sure there's nothing that I didn't mention that I wanted to mention.
Hey, Fatima, can I lay a question on you?
The man of all questions. Yes, Brad, please.
So I've been talking to some white guys as sort of about your podcast. And what's the answer to this question, which I don't know how to properly answer? They say, why is it so urgent? Why is the urgency right now? It seems like you can't even turn on the news without hearing about race. And why is it so happening right now? How do you answer that?
It was about time.
Like they're saying largely nothing has changed, right?
Yeah.
We've had a racist country. We're slowly getting better.
Yeah.
What's the big deal?
The big deal is, my perspective, is that there's a lot of Black people like me who suddenly feel confident and secure about talking about these things. Because if I can talk about it on Facebook behind my little keyboard on my iPhone, I better have the strength to do it for reals. And so I think if I had to guess, I think that it becomes so urgent, so important because of what social media has done by sharing all of this information. I think it makes it urgent and important because people are filming and paying attention to people being pulled over. The unity is there across not just Black people, but look at this call. So when your white listeners are saying, what's the urgency? I think Roger or someone said it's about time, but it also is because of the unification of this topic across America. That is why it's being urgent. Let me just say this too. If we look back in media history and we focus on, and I wasn't around in 1970, but whatever the hot topic was in 1970, 1975, and it was all in the newspapers, it is because the people drove it there. The people want to have the conversation. So I love me some Terry, but Terry is like, how come I got to turn the TV on every day and I see it? Because somebody wants you to see it. The whole world is having these same conversations. And there's a lot of parts of the United States that they're rolling their eyes like, oh God, why this again? And I'm saying, why not? I think that we need to have the conversation different.
Right.
I think that it needs to have a more, and again, we could call this a shameless plug if we want, but I really believe in the mission of the organization that I started, 360 Degree. If you walk into an office environment and you are being reviewed annually and being assessed about the work you do, it needs to be from your supervisor, from a peer, and it needs to be from a client if you're client facing, because those three perspectives, that 360 degree feedback loop, will be able to give you a well-rounded assessment of where you're doing really well in the workplace, or where you're doing really poor, where you can improve, and all of that. If we continue to talk about race and it only be one-dimensional, we're not going to get anywhere. I have to understand how Roger feels. I have to understand how Kim feels. If I don't understand it, then this is for naught. So I think going back to and Brad, I can't just give you a one-line answer, but if you go back to your question, it is because someone out there wants it to be said out loud over and over, the confidence, feeling secure, and being united.
Yeah. Okay.
They're going to say that we're seeing on the news because of the liberal media.
Yeah, they could say that too. And they might not be wrong on that. But again, the same thing I said to Terry when I met with him a couple of weeks ago is, I like it. I like it. I want that. What's happening over there with Kim's background?
Sorry, I thought I was on mute. Was I totally?
Yes. No, you were on mute.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I didn't hear anything.
Oh.
We didn't hear anything.
Didn't hear anything.
Who are those children behind you? What?
Their fault. It is so their fault.
The kids are in the background hiding like we can't see them.
Eileen?
I just want to tag on one quick thing. So William Barber, when we had talked about the Poor People's Campaign a little while ago, and he very much discusses the urgency because people are dying, and people are living in poverty, and people can't eat, and people don't have jobs, and the pandemic. So to answer your question, Brad, what his perspective that really stuck in my brain was that there is urgency. The pandemic exacerbated everything because people are literally dying and starving and can't support themselves. And so everything is speeding up. So that has happened before previously, but now it's just on a fast track and more people are dying at a greater rate.
And I think we can't underestimate the impact that George Floyd's murder had
Yes.
on the nation as a whole. Watching that over and over and over, and then frequently ever after seeing on the evening news another black man, usually not armed, being shot and killed, sometimes in the back. I mean, it has just been a repeated series of stories. And you can say, well, the media is making that the most important topic to lead with. They're not making up the events. They're just showing them to us.
This
Right.
reminds me of the Vietnam War and demonstration, and then you saw we had cameras showing us at night on TV what the war was like. And
Yes.
Lee, when
Yeah.
Kent State happened, and then that went on the media. I mean, there are different times in our history when the events of the day come before our eyes, and maybe we weren't conscious of what was going on before, but now we can see them for ourselves.
Good point. Yeah, that's a very good point.
You got your answer, Brad?
I'm dealing with hard-headed white guys.
I know. Well, tell
Well,
them.
that's their problem. They want, that's their problem.
Oh, I thought you were talking about us.
Oh yeah, Grover,
Tell
I'm
them,
totally
Brad.
talking about you.
I have a
Brad.
brother like that.
Tell them
I'm
if we
trying to
don't
be-
deal with it peacefully, it's going to be a revolution.
I
I'm trying
think
to be conscientious of our friend's
Yeah.
time. Because it's past her bed. She's getting up to run at 5:30 in the morning. What?
well, that's on her. You can't fix crazy.
That is very true. So you can tell that to your hard-headed friends.
You're a
So
rock star,
we are-
Fatima.
Yeah.
Thank you
Fatima,
guys
thank
so much
Thank you
for
very
having me.
much.
I hope
Thank
it
you.
was worth you guys' time.
It was wonderful.
Oh.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we'll have you back.
You are terrific, young lady.
Come back.
He's gonna make
We
me
so
cry.
appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. We'll
We
see
were
you in
looking forward to
June.
this. We were
Website.
looking forward to this, Fatima, and you were kind of overbilled, but you didn't disappoint.
No, I hope I didn't.
Thank you for the introduction, Brad.
I didn't. Fatima's done everything.
Thank you guys so much. Have a good evening.
Night,
Thank
night.
you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, I'm gonna stop
Yay.
the recording because I don't think they need to.
Yep.
Good idea.
Brad, whose
Wonderful.
office are you in? You are not in your office.
I don't know.